Jamaica, after the burn. The sky was no longer the sky. What once stretched blue over the island was now a boiling sea of ash and fire, an eternal dusk where nothing thrived. Zion stood in what had been the heart of Kingston, the city he once knew now reduced to crumbled concrete, molten rivers, and smoking ruins. The flames had gutted the land, but that was only the surface of the end. Behind him, the children huddled together, their faces smudged with soot and fear. They were the last, or at least it felt that way. Zion had heard no voices, seen no signs of life since the firestorm had torn through the island. He and the children had been on the run for days. No food, no water, just running, always running. But there was no escape. He knew that now. In front of him, something stirred in the shadows of the dying light. Zion could barely make it out at first, but then it emerged, massive, towering, a figure that seemed less like flesh and more like the land itself given form. Its skin cracked and burned, revealing molten veins beneath, and its eyes burned like two suns, scorching everything they gazed upon. It was no man. It was the land come to life, the embodiment of every wrong buried beneath Jamaica's soil. The island, long corrupted by greed, blood and sin, had awoken to claim what was left. Preacher, it rasped, its voice like grinding stones. Diana start, when the fire burned the cities. Diane start long ago, when man turn away from the earth. Now me comfy tech, what left? Zion's breath caught in his throat. His muscles tensed, and his hand instinctively moved to shield the children behind him. But what could he do? The earth beneath them was cracked and groaning, and the very air seemed to hum with the island's fury. He swallowed, his voice low but firm. Claim what you want, but you're na own die hearts of die righteous. The creature laughed, a sound that made the ground quake beneath Zion's feet. Righteous, it mocked. You still hold to that word. This island done burn down because of man's greed, dem lies, dem wickedness. Die righteous. No, preacher. Die righteous already perish in the flames. You think righteousness save ya. Zion's heart hammered against his chest, but he kept his voice steady. Dem who refuse fi see get caught in the fire. The book of Revelation did speak, but man no listen. Dem bow to false idols. Now die island, reap what it sow. The figure moved closer, its glowing eyes boring into Zion. Its breath stank of sulfur and rot, a furnace of rage burning beneath the surface. You still think this bout wickedness alone, this bout the earth, taking back what belonged to it. The land remember the blood you spill, the sacrifice, the lies. Now me come fi reap it all. The ground rumbled again, and from the cracks in the earth, other creatures began to crawl out. Twisted things, their bodies warped and grotesque, faces frozen in eternal agony. They were the damned, the ones who had failed the final reckoning, drawn back from the pits to serve as eternal reminders of human failure. The children screamed, huddling closer, their small bodies trembling in fear. Zion's mind raced. He was supposed to protect them, but how? His faith was all that remained, but even that felt fragile, like a thread stretched too tight, ready to snap under the weight of it all. But then, something stirred deep within him, a flicker of memory, something older than the island's fall, older than the Bible verses he had once preached to empty pews. It was the land, speaking in a language he had always known but had forgotten. He dropped to his knees, pressing his hands into the cracked earth. His fingers dug deep into the soil, and he began to chant, softly at first, then louder, the words rolling off his tongue like a forgotten prayer. They were the words of his ancestors, the Maroons, who had once fought to free the island from its oppressors, the spirits of the land, the warriors who had bled for Jamaica. The figure snarled, its eyes flaring as it took a step back. It could feel it. The old magic stirring beneath Zion's hands. The island wasn't just a vessel for the apocalypse. It was alive, and it remembered the blood of the righteous as well as the wicked. Zion's voice rose, carrying across the broken landscape. The earth trembled, but not with destruction. Vines began to rise from the cracks in the ground, twisting and coiling around the legs of the creatures crawling from the abyss. The island was fighting back. But the figure only roared in fury. "You think you can fight the reckoning? You think the land still care about you? It already dead, preacher. Dead and gone. Your prayers fall on deaf ears." The wind howled as the sky above them split open with a blinding flashing of light. From the heavens, a storm of fire and ash began to descend, swirling violently. Zion's heart clenched. This was the final blow. The island was crumbling under the weight of its sins. But then, from the earth itself, something else rose. The spirits of the ancestors, fierce and proud, shimmering like phantoms in the storm. They were the maroon warriors of old, their spectral forms aglow with the same fire that had burned in them during their battles for freedom. Their faces were etched with battle scars, their eyes filled with ancient wisdom and rage. The figure stepped back for the first time, uncertain. It had come to claim the island's soul, but it hadn't expected resistance, not from the land itself. The spirits moved as one, their ancient chant rising with Zion's voice. Their words were a call to the earth, to the rivers, to the very mountains of Jamaica. The land wasn't dead. It was fighting to be reborn. The ground beneath the figure cracked open, a blinding light pouring out from the earth's core. The figure screamed, its body writhing as it tried to claw its way free, but the island would not let it escape. The earth, in its final act of defiance, dragged the monster back into the molten abyss from which it had come. The other creatures writhed and twisted, their screams piercing the air as the island's roots wrapped around them, pulling them back into the darkness. And then, just as quickly as it had begun, the storm started to calm. The sky, once filled with ash and fire, now cleared, revealing a deep, star-filled blackness. The apocalypse had passed, but the world was forever changed. Zion collapsed to his knees, his body trembling with exhaustion. The children gathered around him, their faces pale, but no longer terrified. They had seen the end, but they had also seen the island fight back. "The judgment done pass," Zion whispered, his voice hoarse. "But now we build again." The spirits of the ancestors faded into the wind, their task complete. The island was broken, scarred by fire and blood, but not destroyed. There was hope, buried beneath the ashes, waiting to be uncovered by those who had survived. Zion looked at the children, their eyes wide with awe. "This time, we build Fidi righteous." And in the distance, as the dawn began to break over the ruined landscape, Zion could feel it. A new beginning, but not without sacrifice, not without redemption.
Judgment a fall, everything a crumble. From the sky to the land, the fire start rumble. Who a go run when the island start tumble? The righteous alone have stand up and humble.